Welcome back to Red, White, and Boosted! I'm Colin. It's Corey, Josh. You know the thing. All right, Corey today is our fabricator extraordinaire.
So,
tell us what we're doing to stop this disaster of a lifting situation.
so right now.
Show us.
Huh? Show us? Come on, let's go. So the easiest thing that we're gonna do to solve this is we're just gonna weld in a piece of square tube from, I guess, pocket to pocket going across the frame. That way we'll be able to pick up both ends of that and level this thing out nice, and we won't be afraid to get under it. So,
because right now we're lifting on the control arms. That is sketchy.
It's scary, and I mean, it's good that we got the motor out from the front. Now it's leveled off better than it was, but we're still a little apprehensive, or I am at least anyway. So we're gonna be rocking and rolling on the front of it, but I don't want to be doing that if we might come off the end of this. So
right,
we're gonna solve that issue, and then we're gonna get into fitting this K-member and start cutting out all the old stuff.
All right, so that's what Corey has to say. Today we are going to be doing that, resetting the lift with the car on there properly, and then we've decided that we're just going to use the entire subframe out of the Camaro on this rig, which means we need to clean up this frame. And so this frame was actually built with this welded into it, these pockets for the spring. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to convert it back to a straight frame by cutting off each side of the pocket, welding on a plate on both sides, and then that way we can fit the new subframe much better without having to do anything. So, like super suspect. So that will mean that we're going to be removing the steering box, all the front suspension, including the top control arm, the upper control arms, and the lower control arms, the spindles, the brakes, all the lines for the brakes. And then today our eventual goal is to make kind of a rib nuts or welded nuts, so that we can just run the bolts into the Camaro subframe just like the factory would have been on the Camaro. But I think that in order to do that and get everything square, we're going to have to at least hard weld it a little bit. So I'm gonna let Corey deal with that because he's our fabricator, and we'll get to it. It should be exciting today, guys. All right, Corey did something. It worked.
Hey, I like that. Did y'all notice how much of a bend just came out of these fronts too?
No, tell me about it.
That looks good.
Does it?
Yeah.
Still feel sus by this.
Much more safe.
Okay, well, let's do the thing. We get to cut stuff. We don't have any plate to, what?
It's your favorite thing. Do it again. Man, that's your favorite thing to do. Let's cut stuff.
Okay, first things first, we got to get as much off this car as we can so that we can make the cuts as clean as possible. So Josh is taking off the upper control arm bolts right here. We're going to take out the steering box, take out the rag joint. Then I think that we're good to make the cuts here. Just across as flat as we can across the top. We're probably going to have to cut off this upper control arm mount as well, just to make everything as clean as possible.
So good to see the spark back in your eye, buddy. It's been a long time since you've gotten to cut something up.
I know. I'm like, take me back to the Triumph. Top level.
Well, I brought Triumph parts over here today, actually.
Oh, for why?
Because they were sitting in my shop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
We're gonna finish that car after we finish this.
Absolutely. We're gonna weld that thing together.
Absolutely. You hit your hand?
A little bit. Just removing the center chunk Yeah. And then going back to trim.
All right, so Corey's done a lot of the cleaning up here and we've got everything out of the way. So the steering box is off, all the control arms, all the suspension, the shocks are out, the spindles and drums are over there on the ground. Corey's getting set up right now to do the plasma cutting. So as you notice, we've got this pocket here, right? So that means that today we can only really cut off one side.
While we have gone and like cleaned up some of the rust and grime off the steel, it's still on the back, it's still fighting, and there's some places we just can't get into with like these little divots and stuff. So yeah, do that dance. Do that dance.
I don't know what got people wearing flannel, thinking that's gonna help. It doesn't.
No.
All right, guys, lowering down the El Camino to make the El Camaro.
El Camaro.
Ooh, how wide is it?
Watch your coil bucket. I don't know about yours, but mine is gonna touch the fender. You ready?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have to end up going to put back.
Yeah. Most definitely gonna have to be shoved back.
About centered on my side.
About center over here too.
It's kind of crooked going backwards, like toward the passenger.
Like that. Yeah, so the tail's gonna be bumped just a little bit. Can you pull the tail?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, now go down.
All right, you got
I'll
the
watch.
clear?
I'll watch the brake master.
Corey, you clear?
Yeah.
It's on the subframe.
It is?
Something's stopping it.
Yeah, the
Exhaust?
go back up.
Oh, what just happened?
It was caught on the side.
The dolly that's flipped upside down is what's catching on the other side.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? All right, as you saw, we've been cutting and stuffing and trying to fit this motor in this engine bay. We kind of got it in there. What do you guys think about it?
Pretty cool.
Oh, it's pretty cool.
It's kind of weird how most things line up, but
It's GM.
it's a frame.
Do you like it? What do you think?
Oh, it's cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, we just gotta make some filler on top here, some little wedge pieces. Boom, boom, boom. Plate that in. And then the back is a totally different design, so we might end up lopping those off or making some stanchions. What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of different ways we can go with this. We're still trying to make sure everything is exactly where it needs to be, but we're very close. So close that we've actually marked it because we really like this position. So now it's kind of making sure the rest of the frame is going to operate the way we want to. We were just talking about the drive shaft tunnel because it's an X frame. The drive shaft goes through the center of the X, so we might need to modify that based on what size drive shaft we want to go with. And you know, it's just some of those finer details that are going to come into play with the overall fabrication points here. But as for today, it's late. We're all busted. Wherever my guys went, they're back there somewhere. So we're gonna call it for the night, and we'll be back with you guys tomorrow or the next day. And what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Red, White, and Boosted. My name is Corey.
I'm Josh.
And today we are getting into touching up the El Camino frame. So this guy we have stuffed in here. We've got to do some work on the framey doos. So we're gonna get into that, and I'll catch up with you guys as we move along and we talk about some of the fabrication things we're doing and the materials that we have going on. But until then, enjoy the time lapse. See you guys there. Alright guys, so the cameras died last night while we were wrapping this up, but here's where we're at today. So we've got our side pieces on and we've got our bottom pieces on. So we're going to keep cutting out around the way, get everything situated, get the pieces fit a little bit better, and we're also going to trim out some of the wheel well here, because we're gonna have to put in suspension hoops and all that good stuff. So let's get into that. Let's start some cutting. Okay, now that I have the rest of the frame cut out, mostly, check it out. Boom. Now we're just dealing with a couple little extra pieces that should come off without too much trouble. Then make our other pieces. We're going to trim out some more of this on both sides, kind of even that up, and we'll start making those pieces. Let's get at it. All right, so I got the sides done. Take another look at this here. Not too bad. Nah, not perfect, but that'll weld right. So we're kind of dealing with some other stuff that I'll attack that as I get this top piece set. It's like that on both sides. Kind of raised in the back here, which is okay. I mean, I guess that means I'm doing stuff consistently if everything's lining up to be the same. So just get this top plate done and we'll be ready to start welding her in. Let's get it. All right, so we got a good bit done today, and unfortunately the front of my headband on my hood just broke. It's Sunday night. I'm not getting a replacement, so I'm gonna stop here and I'll show you guys what we got done so far. Ooh, not too bad. See if you guys want to roast me on my welds. Good luck. But so far so good. Now we'll just come back with a fixed hood and stagger our welds so we don't get any kind of warpage, and spend some time doing it, and we should be good to go.
Looks good.
Thank you, sir. Did some good work this weekend. So after we get this set up, we still have to come back in here. We're gonna cut a section out here and basically weld in some tube that we've cut, give us some cutouts for our exhaust to fit in. We'll have to do that on both sides. And once we get that taken care of, then we're gonna move on to getting the suspension set up. So Josh, here, take this. And what we have, got some hoops pre-bent and ready to try to use. So these candy cane looking guys should be good enough for us to mount where we need to in here. It's actually going to be perfect. I was almost thinking maybe I did it too short, which...
No, I think it's good.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. So we'll be able to cock this however we want to. Same thing over here. And when it's all said and done, we'll snip these wherever we need to, and that'll be our hoop to go in here. And then we'll weld a plate in the center with our exact mounting system for these struts.
Yeah.
So once we get that taken care of, well, actually we can't even do this part yet. We're gonna have to mount the subframe assembly that the motor's sitting on to the frame first, and once that's mounted, then we can actually do our suspension. So exhaust cutouts, final welding on the frame section, then mounting the subframe assembly underneath it, and then suspension hoops, and then we'll have the motor in. Then we're gonna flip to the back and start trying to mount the independent rear suspension and differential in there. So
should be fun.
Yeah, I'll just be going off the guidance of Mr. Josh here when we get back there. Hey, weld this here. All right, let's do that. He'll be the master of setting that thing in there. But until then, we'll see you guys in a couple days. Thanks for watching Red, White, and Boosted. My name's Corey.
I'm Josh.
Y'all have a good evening. We'll see you on the next one. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Red, White, and Boosted. My name is Corey, and today I'm flying solo. The guys are out in OKC for a couple days or whatever, probably finding more cars to bring back and doing cool OKC stuff. But I'm here wrapping up the El Camino frame, as you can see in the background here. I've got welding to do. I'm gonna have to stagger weld it, so it's gonna take a little bit of time. And after I get that knocked out, we're gonna get into making the pockets for the exhaust system. The headers just barely squeeze in on the inside of the frame, and by squeezing I mean we kind of had to force it in with the lift, dropping the car on it. So I'm gonna cut out sections. I've got pipe here that I'm gonna use to actually make a contoured insert. So we're gonna do that after I finish welding this out, and I'm just gonna bring you guys along for the ride. So yeah, let's throw some sparks. Come on, let's get at it. All right, now hopefully I don't shake too much for you guys. I've had quite a bit of caffeine this morning, and that doesn't help the nerve damage at all. So hopefully I can hold this straight for you. But as you saw, we got everything welded out. See if we can get some close-ups here. Maybe you guys won't roast me too bad on my welds, but it's looking pretty good. We don't have any warpage yet. All this is still cooling down, and you know, I was giving it 10 minutes in between sections. I know you guys can't really tell on the time lapse, but everything came out pretty good. I probably could have done a better job at making these plates, but it'll suffice for what we're doing. Now I do have some scars from cutting out the old plate in different spots. I kind of had to go back in and pop some corners that I missed, because like I said, my plates don't really exactly line up all over the place. But you see some scarring here, and definitely a couple of spots on the outside too. Now I'm talking about these exhaust pockets. So I'm waiting to do anything with this, because basically we've got a mark here and here of pretty much, and you can kind of see right there the scratches from the exhaust coming in. So I'm gonna make sure I split that. What I'll do is I'll probably just start on both sides. We've got a similar hole, so I'll probably just come down straight with that, come out and just catch that. I might go a little bit more, but basically I don't really have a choice. I think I'm gonna have to go in probably half the distance of the frame to make sure that we get clearance for the header to go in, and also clearance for our collectors, not collectors, well, our union to the actual exhaust tubing. Having a brain fart. Might as well be Monday today. But yeah, we're gonna get cutting on that and get those installed. So let's go, let's get it in there, guys, come on. All right, so now that we got our pieces cut out and we kind of know where everything's going at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and take a wire brush here on my grinder I'm gonna clean off some of this dirt and rust so I can mark out my pockets the best as possible. And I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna cut my vertical lines with the angle grinder and a cutoff wheel. Then I'll bring the plasma cutter back in here and I'll cut my radiuses in the top and the bottom. And this thing should just put in there, and might have to do a little bit of trimming with what I like to call a rock, but it's a grinding disc. And we'll clean the radiuses up and we'll get welding on that. Let's do it. All right, now that you see that we've got everything cut out, we've got our pieces fit. No, it's not perfect because I'm doing all this hand cut, but it's pretty close. And it's nothing that we can't air weld and make solid. So I'm gonna go ahead and start fitting pieces in and start welding up. Let's get it. All right, so you saw I've been doing some grinding here, which is never a good thing. As it would turn out, I ran out of gas on my very, very last weld. So I had to grind my groove out here. And I'm not leaving today until this is done. So the plan here is to get the stick welder out, and I'm gonna throw a stick weld on that. Let's see what we can do with that. I'll be right back with you. All right, y'all, well, I'm wrapped up for the day. I appreciate y'all hanging around watching this fabrication video with me. The guys will be back in town pretty shortly, in a day or so, and we'll be able to roll the engine assembly forward and make sure everything fits the way that it's supposed to fit. And then we'll get moving on the next steps. We're gonna mount that subframe underneath our frame here, and then we're gonna make sure that everything works together and start our suspension setup, get our suspension hoops mounted and the brackets and all of that custom made, get those installed, and then we'll be able to start focusing on getting the rear cradle put in place. So got a lot of good fabrication stuff coming up, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. But that's gonna be it today for Red, White, and Boosted. I'm Corey, and I'll see you guys next time. Y'all be good.
All right, folks, what we got right here? Oh, we got, how's my hand dirty? I haven't done anything. Okay. That's perplexing. Okay, so Josh is measuring. Corey is setting up his welding machine, the metal fuser. What are you doing?
Nothing. Waiting on him now, but we're... Do you seize it?
Best videographer ever.
All right, so Corey did a really good job with this, it looks awesome. Even the cutouts back there for the exhaust, if you can see that. It looks off, but it's not. It's just the camera. But so we're gonna use the factory mounts that came from the Camaro and build a flat plate box with gussets so we can have the pin alignment and the factory hole location. But just for setting up purposes, we went ahead and just got it even, measured the corner distance out, and then from here to here on the frame rails, and they are good. So Corey is going to just tack a nice either bead right here or make a mini plate just to hold it so that we can set the angle of the rear, because holding 4 points on this is not so easy with a floor jack and an old cart that is, you can see it's falling apart. So, isn't that right, Corey? Yep, he just ate some Fritos.
Hell yeah.
Colin, look at a little sunburn there, bro.
Hell to the no,
fancy
no.
hair.
Hell no.
Looks good. How's your retinas?
How would you know?
I don't know. I got glasses on, I can't see.
It's kind of gross. Kind of. A lot of. Oh no, we want a welter rust. Shitty fuck.
Why are you an accountant or something, Colin? Why do people,
Counting these nuts.
why do people care about you? It's tax
Counting these
season.
nuts.
Got dad jokes.
All right, Corey, what we got going on here, buddy?
Building brackets. What are you doing?
Corey made this plate. Now he's welding it to something.
Welding it to something?
So he chose to weld it to that nut? Interesting.
So now what he's gonna do is he's gonna take a piece of plate, slide it in between there, and then
And then?
and then
Alright, here we go. The wild Corey. Looking very concerned.
All right, so some of y'all might have caught us on the live feed yesterday, but we all simultaneously forgot to bring our cameras to film. So we'll kind of bring you up to speed on what we've got going on so far. We did get the subframe married to our existing frame, and we got support structure in. We cut out our cross member from original frame, and we've got some mounts going on. Kind of check those out here for a second. So we built up front mounts here. Kind of figured out a good way to get a stud down through our second mount. The third bit of where this would attach to the Camaro frame, we're still figuring that one out. We're probably going to chop it and bring it up to our existing frame. Do that a little bit later on. But as you can see, we've got some decent clearance. If I can get my hand down in here. Exhaust pipes, our manifolds are in our pockets. So we've got a similar setup over here. So lots of clearance for everything. Transmission lines up pretty well. We still have to mount that underneath the vehicle. Right now we've got that supported with a tie down or ratchet strap. And today what we are doing is we're going to mount our hoops and make our towers to mount our suspension. So that's the big plan. And once we get that settled and we can actually roll this thing around, she might be looking like a squatting dog for a minute, but we're gonna start planning out how to get the rear end out and get the Camaro cradle up under it. And I was gonna pan around to it, but it's kind of hidden in between some of the vehicles we got in here. So we'll just take a look at that later. But what do you think, Colin? You got your angles and stuff? What have you been doing this morning?
I just measured and did math all in my head.
All in your head.
I wrote some stuff down on an iPhone, but it's all in my head.
Oh, okay.
I know this car by heart.
Great.
Chevy till the day I die.
So he's basically just gonna point and use a Sharpie and make marks and say cut this and that and weld this and that, and that'll put us right where we need to be. So or not. He's just gonna let me weld stuff together.
Your masterpiece. Corey, this is your episode, buddy.
Partially. So we have mounts done on the side of our frame rails here. The rears were kind of weird, so I actually took one of the stock cradle bolts, chopped the head off, welded it to the side of our frame weld, and I boxed it in and just kept welding it. So should be better than, you know, just 2 layers or 3 layers of stacked, you know, 22 gauge steel. That goes all the way through. We got the hardware to bolt it up underneath, so it's bolted with some lock nuts and flat washer. And we got the front pinned and bolted up here. So now we're gonna lift her up for the first time. And it would appear that the motor is gonna be mounted. What you think?
Your welds look awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You ready to
It really wasn't me.
see if it works?
It's all in the machine. And then what?
Some would claim that, actually. It's you when they go well, and it's the machine when you weld bad. So.
Corey, you've been at this all day, bud.
Sure have.
You're hungry, aren't you?
Very hungry.
Yum yum in my tum tum.
Something like that. So we've just been struggling with measurements and getting everything consistent side to side.
He's beat up.
I am beat up, but we've got it pretty close. We've got hopefully all of our angles and accesses figured out. Close to being able to adjust it as possible anyway.
So what we got is same rake that you'd have on a Camaro. Actually, the entire suspension is now the same as you'd have on that chassis over there. Hey, Josh. Oh. Okay, so you're at the point where you're gonna burn in?
Yeah, I'm not gonna do too much. I'm gonna have to come back and clean this up, but we're at least gonna be
Rolling it.
we're gonna make it to where it can move around
Yeah.
by itself.